Hi, my name is Cal Wansborough. My company is Yoga and the Big Smoke. I teach a lot of Yin Yoga, and Yin is a long, slow practice, mainly on the ground. This class is centering on the spine and shoulders. Using a variety of different poses, we open up through the spine and shoulders. So we're going to do Spinal Twist for the first pose. You're going to come onto your backs. So there's a couple of options in Spinal Twist. So first of all, looking at Javier, he's going to bring his knees in and he's going to drop his knees. He's just going to stack his knees and drop his knees over to the left and bring that right arm out. So sometimes it looks a little bit uncomfortable with the right shoulder. So it's nice sometimes to bring a little block underneath it so it's a bit supportive. You can bring your hand onto the ribs as well. And then coming onto Tammy, she's going to actually cross her knees over because she's got she feels the stretch much more. So the crossing over the knees is going to exaggerate, or it's going to increase the stretch, and she's going to bring her arms out. The height, you need to bring your knees quite high up by your left armpit, and it's the combination of the knees dropping down and the shoulder dropping down, so she's getting a nice stretch through there. There's also an option, you might need to shuffle down a bit. There's also an option of if you bring your knees in, there's also an option of bringing your legs straight out. So sometimes this can help. Straight legs just have longer levers, which make the levers heavier, which can also increase the pose. But that doesn't really work for you, does it? No, so better just to, for Tammy, it's better just to drop the knees over. But that might work for some of you. And then coming on to Elaine as well, Elaine's got really long legs, so she's gonna cross her legs over and then feel a nice stretch through the ribs. So really this pose is really about getting into the back of the ribs, into that mid-back, which is the thoracic spine. So we want to find that twist. We naturally rotate from left to right in the thoracic spine, in the mid-back. You can make the pose a little bit more comfortable. So you can bring the left hand onto the knees. Sometimes that just the little weight of the left hand on the knees helps to bring the knees down until you get a little bit more of a stretch. Javier, I'm going to just bring your knees a little bit further up. Are you comfortable there? Do you need to move over a little bit more? Yeah. So the idea is to get the knees nice and high up, and then so that you get that twist through that section of the back. You want to feel that nice twisting and opening up. So the thoracic spine, the mid-back, is the stiffest part of our spine, and it's really nice to unravel this. It's got a lot of fascia around here, so obviously Yin Yoga, we're working on the fascia of the body. We're trying to open up through connective tissue and fascia. Fascia is that cling film like wrap which wraps around all of our body. It layers, it's in between all the organs, it wraps around every little tiny tube of muscle, and then the fascia comes more and more heavily layered towards the circumference of the muscles, and then that leads on to the next muscles. Those fascia turns into tendons, which also ligaments are a part of the connective tissue. So this is the tissues of the body that we're working on in Yin Yoga, the fascia and the connective tissue. Yin, we're going to use just normal body breathing, so there is no control of breath, it's just a gentle observation of the inhale and the exhale. So when we work on the fascia of the body, it requires different treatment to muscles, so we want to have long held gentle stretches as opposed to dynamic repetitive motion, which is what muscles use and which muscles need. And now coming back into center, and we're just going to go immediately over to the other side. So just being really mindful that the transitions are nice and slow, and that one side of the body is different from the other. So you might need to come to a slightly different stretch. So both Elaine and Tammy are going to bring their knees nice and high up. And you can bring the left arm up to the backhand corner of the room. So you can bring that left arm up, and you're just going to start to get that stretch a little bit more through here maybe. And Javier is again just going to stack his knees, and you're just going to bring your knees over, and then you're going to bring a little bit more. So aiming to get that twist through that mid-back section through there. And the poses work on the meridian lines of the body. So Yin Yoga is based on the philosophy of Chinese medicine. So we're working on opening up through meridian lines and bringing the energy flow back through the meridian lines, making the energy flow balanced and constant. And in this particular pose, we are working on the liver meridian and the gallbladder, and also the heart meridian. So it's coming right up into the heart, and particularly as we open up through that left arm, and you're bringing the left arm up, working on bringing the energy through to the heart. So the heart is all about bringing more compassion and more gratitude into your life. The heart is about balancing our relationships. So it's about ability to connect to people. If your heart meridian is in balance, then you are warm and give light and warmth, a bit like a fire. So it's related to the element of fire. Fire can also rage out of control, and it can also become very cold and die. So you just want to always looking to get that balance. This is a really nice, simple, effective pose of working into that nice stiff section of the back, the thoracic spine. So know in your Yin Yoga postures, if you find it really uncomfortable, then you need to readjust so that you're in a place of comfort and that you can sustain the pose for a long period of time. It's not really about coming into your maximum range of motion. It's not about pushing into a pose and enduring it. It's about finding a place which is comfortable but you feel the stretch. So we always talk about target area in Yin Yoga, and the poses will look different for each person. So it's really about looking at your body, feeling if you're feeling the pose in the right place, readjusting, getting nice and comfortable, and then being able to stay there for a fairly long period of time. So we're holding these poses for about 3 to 4 minutes. And now really slowly coming back into center. You just can hug your knees in from that spinal twist. And now we're going to work into a back bend. So there's a couple of options for back bends. The first one, we're going to come into so Lane and Javier, they're both going to come into a supported bridge. So you're taking a block underneath your hips, coming into supported bridge. So Lane's chosen the tall block way, but you can also bring your block the other way. So you can bring your block that short way, coming like that, or even flatter, coming like that. So option of how high you want your block. So you can just bring it up, can't you? There. And you want your sacrum to really be able to rest nicely down onto the block. Javier's doing that as well. And then just kind of relaxing your fingers, so you just, if that feels better, does that feel better? Yeah. And then your knees can wing out or they can come in. So you can either bring your knees nice and wide and relax your knees out, or you can bring your feet wide and then bring your knees together, which is ever your preferred option as well. So I don't know which one you prefer. Yeah, so that one. And then in the middle, Tammy is coming into a different option of a back bend, so it's a Sphinx pose. So this is just on your front, elbows underneath your shoulders. And then with this one as well, you can relax your neck, so you can bring your forehead down onto a block and feel that your neck is nice and relaxed. It's not really about holding your head up so much, it's just about finding that nice little back bend through here. So back bends are all about compression of the intervertebral disc. It's not so much about feeling a stretch, it's about really just coming into a back bend. And as you come into the back bend, you will gently compress the intervertebral discs. So the intervertebral discs are sandwiched between each vertebrae, and as we gently compress them, then they start to re-inflate, or they start to hydrate. So long-term effect of compression of the intervertebral discs is that they start to, the center of the discs becomes hydrated, becomes a lot more bulbous, becomes more supportive of the spine, and absorbs shock. So we're really looking for our intervertebral discs to be nice and hydrated and bulbous. And then in the last few moments of this back bend, Tammy's going to come up into a seal pose. So this is just a stronger version of the Sphinx. So coming and bringing her head right up and coming off her elbows so that she's on her arms. So she's just coming into more of an intense back bend. With seal and with Sphinx as well, you can have the option of bringing your legs wide, like that, or you can bring your feet together, which is ever your preferred option. So do you have an option, Tammy? Yeah, so sometimes it's nice to just eases the compression a little bit into the sacrum. And now, really slowly, you're going to come out of that pose, and we're going to move into a forward fold. So we're going to do 3 options of a forward fold. So the first option, Elaine is going to come into a snail pose. So she's going to roll up. So snail pose, you need to have quite a good flexion in your neck. And this is a really nice pose. It really gets into so you're curving your spine the other way from a back bend. And then Elaine's going to bring her arms around, and then it's just really nice and relaxed. So curving her spine the other way from a back bend. You can, with snail, you can really target. So you can come forward a little bit or roll back a little bit, and you can start to target certain parts of your spine. So this is a really nice option for a forward fold. Tammy's going to come straight down. So she's just going to come straight down into a caterpillar. So this is a nice pose for her. Do you want another block here? So it's nice and caterpillar. You're just going to fold over. Obviously the spine is now curling the other way, and then she's relaxing her shoulders. Forehead is some blocks so that she's not holding her head up, and the spine's nicely curling. And then Javier is going to come into another option. So it's all just folding the spine one way. So the other option is bringing your knees underneath the bolster and just folding forward. So this particular one is really targeting the spine, because you're not bringing the hamstrings into the equation as the knees are bent. So this is really good if you have tight hamstrings. You can just fold forward, and it's because the knees are bent, supported by the bolster, then hamstrings are not brought into the equation. So 3 different versions of a forward fold. Forward folds are really opening up through the back line of the body. They're working on the kidney meridian and the urinary bladder meridian. And obviously in Yin, we're always adapting the pose to suit our body. So 3 different options of a forward fold. And now, wherever you are, really slowly coming out of the pose. So you're going to roll back onto your mats. And now we're going to come into a ham dangle. So ham dangle is you need a strap. So ham dangle, you need a strap, and you're going to bring your right foot around the strap, and then you can prop if you loop the strap, then the weight of your head can support your leg. You can bring a bolster underneath. Do you want a bolster underneath your... Does that feel more comfortable? Not really. Okay. So you can bring a bolster underneath your head. Sometimes it's really nice to support your head, maybe heavier or like that. And then you can either have that right leg straight, like Elaine, or you can bend the left knee up and have the left foot onto the floor. So again, always coming into your options. The other option for a forward fold is to come into a half dragonfly. So you're going to bend your left knees. Yeah, Janushasana, and then you're just going to fold forward. So this is the other option. Sometimes this is just a nice option. The really nice thing about the ham dangle pose is that it really isolates the hamstrings. So your back is flat onto the mat, and there's a slight, very, very slight posterior tilt of the tailbone. So you work your hamstrings a little bit more. Obviously in this pose, which Tammy is doing, it is also involving the back as well. So you're coming into a forward fold in the back, you can see through here, and then working on the hamstrings. You can have a block to support, use your head on the shin. Are you feeling nicely supported, or you want to bring that? You okay? Sorry. And then just staying in that. So idea of this pose is to get a really nice stretch through your hamstrings. So you're working on the 4 hamstrings at the back of the right leg now. So quite important in this pose as well to have a little tiny bend in your right knee here. So this means that you get into the belly of the hamstrings, which is this part, and you don't really want to come up into the seat bones. You don't want to, that's into the attachments of the hamstrings, and you want to avoid that because you certainly don't want to snap your attachments. So the little bend just softens it and makes it come into the belly. So as we work into the back line of the body, into the legs, into the back of the legs, we're working into the kidney and the urinary bladder meridian. So this is really about bringing in fluidity and an element of water into our lives. So having that sense of flow. And as we stretch or bring tension to the back of our legs, then we're not only stretching them out, but we're also, the fascia starts to secrete fluid in a liquid which lubricates itself, so the layers of fascia start to glide over each other. And now really slowly we're going to move over to the other side. So coming into your left side. And just be really mindful that, again, that the left and right side of the body is different. Choosing the same options again. And feeling that really nice stretch to the back of the left leg, the hamstrings. Hamstrings tend to get quite tight. They're responsible for bending the knee back and also a little bit of hip extension. So they're used all the time in running, walking, cycling, And also when we sit down, our knees are always bent, so the hamstrings are shortened then, but they're not being used, so they tend to get nice and tight. So it's a nice, really nice effect, a really nice physical release to stretch these muscles or this myofascia out. And when we hold these yin poses for a long time, we are a lot on the floor, and it's very grounding, it's very nourishing. It's really relaxing for the body. We drop into our parasympathetic nervous system. And when we drop into the parasympathetic nervous system, we come into the place of rest and digest, so the body starts to replenish and to heal itself. The idea about yin is to soften into the poses, so we want to lessen our resistance and just be with ourselves, be in the pose, not so much do the pose. Yin is a very introspective practice, so it's the perfect practice to do at home. It doesn't require a lot of yang energy, so it's nice to find a quiet place and practice. It really prepares us very well for meditation. So not only we are stretching the more dense tissues of the body, we're also compressing into joint capsules. So creating a stretch in the back of the left leg now, but also we folding into the left hip. So folding into the left hip here, and that's gentle compression into the left hip. So that helps for our body to be able to sit for long periods of time. Seated meditation, the body can become a real distraction because we can have pins and needles, we can have a lot of pain in our body, but yin is a really nice practice to be able to, after a while, you can sit for really long periods. And now really slowly coming out of that left side and just lying back for a few moments in a rebound. So a big part of yin is about coming into a rebound position. So relaxing back and just feeling the effects of that long held stretch, noticing the difference between the left and the right side. And now, finally, we're going to come into a fish on a block. So you can do this one or two ways. So you can either bring the block long ways and bring the block in between your shoulder blades, so coming down onto the block like that with your head back. You can reposition it to whichever is best, or you bring the block this way round, and you're going to get that lower edge of the block just underneath the tips of your shoulder blades. And so this is a little bit of myofascial release. Sometimes it's really nice to bring a bolster underneath your head, and then you just bring your arms round by your side, so you're feeling that nice opening right at the front of the shoulders. So you're opening up through the front, opening a little bit through those muscles of the front of the rotator cuff, and then there's a nice opening through the heart, through the ribs, through the solar plexus. And on this particular one where you've got the block this way round, There's also a sense of the block pressing up into the fascia of the thoracic spine and creating a little bit of myofascial release. This is a really nice pose to open up through the heart. Sometimes we find it quite hard to open up through here. We tend to be a little bit closed as humans, so it's a nice opening, working very much on the heart meridian. As I mentioned before, heart is about being able to establish connection and relationships with other people, to build relationships and know what relationships are appropriate. So the way that we treat our best friend would be very different from the way that we treat a work colleague or a lover or the postman. So it's really about being able to build healthy relationships and know which relationships are appropriate or not. And then now really slowly just releasing out of that pose, taking the block away, taking the bolster away, and then making your way down into your final relaxation. So setting yourself up for relaxation is really important. It's really nice to have a bolster underneath your knees. Sometimes does anybody want a bolster underneath their knees? So bringing your bolster underneath your knees just allows the sacrum to sink down a little bit, and bringing some eye bags onto the eyes. Is that okay? And then just allowing your feet to flop out and feeling the weight of your bones and your body on the mat. Now really slowly wriggling your fingers and your toes. And then just bringing your arms over your head and giving yourself a really nice big stretch. And then hugging your knees into your chest. And then slowly dropping your knees over to the left side. Resting for a few moments in fetal, so you can recalibrate. And then from here, slowly making your way up into a comfortable seated position. And just bring your hands together. So option of seated position, kneeling or cross-legged. Bring your hands together in prayer at your heart center, taking a moment to notice the effects of your practice. And then bringing your thumb knuckles to the center of your forehead. Namaste. Thank you very much, guys.